morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I thought it might be fun, given that it is New Year. You should be watching this on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day if you're watching when it goes up. Should be New Year's Eve. It's planned for New Year's Eve, but New Year's Eve is Friday, and that's when news drops in Japan. So we don't know, maybe it gets pushed back. Either way, today, grab yourself a nice hot cup of cocoa, or whatever your preferred beverage is. Find yourself a nice comfy place to sit, because we are going to be looking at the weirdest Pokemon cards that were released in the year 2021. Because it really does feel like more than most years, we have had some weird cards revealed this year. I mean, one that doesn't even really make my list is this random Piplup promo. For some reason I don't really understand. Over in Japan, they decided this year to have some kind of big Piplup thing, and they had a Piplup card with a Piplup stamp that they were giving away in convenience stores. That's weird, right? Doesn't even make the list. First one is not in any real particular order, although I am going to try and save the weirder ones for last. So let's start off with the stamp promos. And all of the cards on this list, I feel pretty confident in saying that you could essentially not have predicted these coming. There is absolutely no way back at the beginning of the year, if you had made a list of all of the cards coming, that you ever would have got to any of these cards. So essentially what happened was that Pokemon went and released a set of stamps of Pokemon cards. And as well as a set of stamps, and the stamps were Pokemon cards in stamp form, they also released a couple of stamps which were classic Japanese stamps, but reimagined with Pokemon in, drawn by the legendary artist Mitsuhiro Arita, who is of course one of the original Pokemon TCG illustrators, who has been illustrating Pokemon TCG cards literally since the base set, including the Charizard that got turned into a stamp. And then they turned those stamps into cards. And it's really weird to get these classic Japanese stamps reimagined with Pokemon on official Pokemon cards. Now, essentially what we had was Moongoose, which has been redone with Cramorant, and Woman Looking Back, who now all of a sudden has Pikachu on her shoulder, rather than, I mean, most people don't have creatures on their shoulders when they're just kind of looking back. It's weird, right? I cannot be the only one that thinks this is strange. Now, the sad addendum to this, or happy depending on how you go here, essentially the way they ended up doing it was you had to pick these up in person, and you had to have a Japanese address, so the chances of getting these not scalped was basically zero. They really did, the Pokemon Company over in Japan, make this incredibly difficult for non-Japanese fans to get hold of, which does seem fair, as sad as it is someone who's not in Japan. But the fact that we took classic Japanese stamps, Pokemon-fied them, and then turned them into actual Pokemon TCG cards is just absolutely stunning to me. I don't think anyone could have predicted this at all. Now, my favourite cards of the year, or at least some of them, are, as I like to call them, old cards, new Pokemon. Now, these are a bunch of Celebrations promos that essentially came around where they got old-style cards and chucked in new Pokemon. So we had Dragapult Prime. Now, these are essentially, well, Pokemon Prime from back in the day. But now, all of a sudden, these were Heart Gold, Soul Silver things, but now all of a sudden, instead of having your Heart Gold, Soul Silver Pokemon, we've got the Gen 8 Dragapult, who was not around when Heart Gold, Soul Silver was out, when we had all of these primes, and now that comes through as a prime, which is amazing to me. I mean, for me, you're never going to beat Donphan Prime, let's be clear. And also, shout out to whoever it was that was in charge of those Celebrations cards, because somebody thought it was a good idea to make the only Prime that got a card in the Classic Collection to be Donphan Prime. I don't think it was the best choice objectively, but subjectively, for me, Oh, you better believe I was happy, ladies and gentlemen. I was delighted. We then had Zacian Level X coming through. That was your Gen 4 thing, Level X's. You know, in the Classic Collection, we saw Luxray and Garchomp. Why did we get this? Nobody really knows. I have no idea who decided to do this. I am just absolutely delighted that they did, because it was a wonderful, wonderful idea. So all of a sudden, those Gen 4 Level X's come through with your Gen 8 Zacian, and it doesn't make a huge amount of sense, but I'm not complaining. Back in Gen 3, we had Pokemon Star, like for instance Umbreon Star, that was printed in the Classic Collection. And now all of a sudden we ended up with Greninja Star coming in the Elite Trainer box. One thing that's really amazing here, Fukuda did do all of the Pokemon Stars back in the day, and they did get the same artist back to do Greninja Star here, which I absolutely adore. That was definitely the right choice. And a Gen 6 Pokemon in terms of Greninja coming in what is essentially a Gen 3 card. No, that doesn't make a huge amount of sense, but it doesn't really matter. It came back, and that was awesome. And then we had some more. We had Hydreigon C, just like all of your SP Pokemon back in Gen 4. Luxray being an example, though Luxray was a Level X. We saw Light Toxtricity, like all of those Light Pokemon. Little bit sad, we never actually saw any Light Pokemon in the Classic Collection, but then again, Light Pokemon really were not around in the Pokemon TCG for very long at all, so to even see any of them is really weird. Obviously, these were Gen 2 things, and Light Toxtricity is a Gen 1 Pokemon. No! That doesn't make a huge amount of sense, and I don't care. We had Mimikyu Delta, not unlike the Gardevoir EX Delta species that came in the Classic Collection. This is where we end up with the typing of Pokemon being swapped. Mimikyu is a ghost Pokemon, not a water Pokemon, but Mimikyu Delta comes in as a water Pokemon, and that's a little bit weird. We did also see Dark Sylveon V and Lance's Charizard V that kind of evoked those old style, but they weren't quite the same. Because they were Pokemon V, because they had regulation marks, they were a similar kind of thing, but they weren't exactly the same. One thing that is very, very strange, Celebrations, or as it is in Japan, the 25th Anniversary Collection, has been and gone. And these cards never got a release. Now, over in Hong Kong and Taiwan, we did see a release for just Dark Sylveon and Lance's Charizard, but we never actually saw in Korea, or in Thailand, or in Hong Kong and Taiwan, or Japan, we never saw any of these Asian territories get any of these cards. These ended up in, North America and Europe and places like that. They never got an Asian release like all the other cards. But as I've said, this has been and gone at this stage. It's not like there are more products which are going to be announced any minute. This has happened. And we've moved on. And it certainly looks an awful lot like these cards are never coming out. Now, for Charizard and Sylveon, that's actually very, very strange because they have regulation marks. They are mechanically unique cards which are tournament legal. So they need to be released at some point. But these other cards don't. And as it stands at the moment, Japan had a chance to get these. I did hear people spreading rumours that these were going to be in a different subset, and maybe they still will. But those rumours have turned out, as of this moment, to be, rumours at best. That's the most polite way to put it. It's a little bit weird. Now, one card which just looks weird on the face of it is the Unigaba Pikachu. And I'm delighted to say that I do have this card. And it's very, very strange. And it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. And I absolutely love it. Essentially, what Pokemon went and did was they went and got Unigaba, who is a fairly famous Japanese artist, to draw a Pikachu card. And it ended up a little bit weird because it's a completely white background with just line drawing of a Pikachu, and it is extremely strange. And it's not like these things usually look. And yet it is, I can't decide if I love this card or I hate it, but I do know I went and picked up this card because it is absolutely beautiful. Incidentally, there was also some t-shirts that were released. There was an accessory box with deck box and sleeves and a playmat and all of that. And there was actually a Japanese men's magazine that was released that came with a sticker sheet, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I have imported that magazine just for the sheet of stickers. Yeah, that one might have been going a little bit too far on my part. Either way, the idea that this Japanese artist would get to draw this Pikachu that looks so different to any other... we've had hundreds of Pikachu cards over the years. None of them have looked anything like this whatsoever. This is one of the weirdest, most unique Pokemon cards we've ever seen. And oh my goodness, it just looks awesome. The good news is this was not a difficult card to get hold of at all. It was available in store, but it was also available when you bought online, and it stayed in stock for ages. I picked one of these up very casually on the Japanese Pokemon Center, and yeah, these are just out there. As it stands on eBay at the moment, you're going to be paying somewhere in the region of about $17 for these. That seems to be the going rate. So it's not even a particularly expensive card nowadays. It's weird, but if you want to pick one of these up, you shouldn't be struggling too hard. But I think if I had to give a prize for the weirdest Pokemon card released this year, I'm giving it to Special Delivery Badoof. A card which is so strange and weird that I got a couple of dozen messages from people going, yeah, but is this actually real, Wassy, or is this a joke? And some places that reported this as news were adding a little disclaimer that this might not actually end up being real. And I love this, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely love this. Incidentally, I really appreciate the fact that Pokemon, because of the kerfuffle we had with Special Delivery Pikachu, what they did was they had you sign up, essentially, and you could receive a code, and then that code let you make one order, and that order gave you a Special Delivery Badoof, so we didn't get the whole scalping issues we had with Special Delivery Pikachu, which I very much appreciated. But essentially what we had this whole Day of Badoof thing going on. And there was a deck box and coin given out on PTCGO, and a bunch of merchandise went up on Pokemon Center Online. And then they actually had, on official Pokemon channels, the Battle of the Badoof, which was a game played with entirely Badoof cards. And one of the cards was Special Delivery Badoof. This ridiculous card that was a play on Special Delivery Pikachu and the, honestly at this stage, legendary Special Delivery Charizard. We've seen it, but we've never actually, although one has apparently been sold, we've never actually seen this be released. This is still kind of hanging out there. We don't really know what the deal with it is, though we do very much believe it is a real card. The idea of a Special Delivery Badoof seemed like a joke, and yet what basically happened was, maybe it was a joke. Maybe the whole Day of Badoof was done. It very much seemed to be a proper tongue-in-cheek thing, but they took Special Delivery Pikachu. Well, I mean, if you have a look at, say, the pin, for instance, you can see that it's usually Pikachu strapped to Charizard's chest, or flying on his back, I should say, and now they've replaced it with Badoof strapped in. And it makes no real sense. And this was a completely inessential card that we didn't need. And there are people in the Pokemon Company who spent time and effort making this card really as a tee-hee-hee, look how cool Badoof is thing. And I, for one, am absolutely delighted that they went and did this, because my goodness, it's absolutely amazing. I am so happy with Special Delivery Badoof. The fact that they actually ended up making it, it's absolutely ridiculous. Unfortunately, this one is not quite so cheap as the Unigaba Pikachu. This one, you are going to be paying somewhere in the region of $170 to pick this up. It was quite a limited card that, unfortunately, there were a few out there, but they seem to have been and gone at this stage, so the chance to pick these up cheap does seem to unfortunately have passed, and that's a little bit sad, but what can you do, ladies and gentlemen? what can you do? I should mention in terms of some of the other cards on this list, that Piplup I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there were many of these given out in Japan. These again, like the Unigaba Pikachu, were given out if you just bought some stuff on Pokemon Center Online and did not sell out very fast at all. And these ones, I mean, they're selling for about $3. So if you want to pick up one of these Piplup, and they are beautiful cards, I would highly recommend you do so. These have attracted almost no value whatsoever. But unfortunately, the Pokemon stamp box, yeah, sorry, those ones are gonna cost you. The full set of the stamp box seems to be selling for somewhere in the region of $200. So, like I've said, because of the way they made that available, because it was so difficult, and there is actually an issue that a lot of online sellers won't let you sell stamps because they are a form of currency. So there are some issues, and do be very, very careful. You'll notice some of the listings on the screen specifically say with stamp sheet. A lot of the online sellers actually had to take the stamps out in order to post them. It gets a little bit strange, all right? But yeah, that one is, shall we say, a little bit expensive. We're not going to go through the prices of those Celebrations promos because they were just in the Celebrations packs. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice that of the weird promos, they weren't all Japan exclusive. Sure, they had the Unigaba Pikachu and those stamp promos, but we got special delivery Badoof, gosh darn it. And also Dragapult Prime. That is one of my very favourite cards released this year. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know any of these cards, if you've picked them up, or if you're planning to pick them up, or basically anything you want to tell me. And if there are really weird cards released this year that you think should have been on this list but weren't, let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.